Okay, now we're live. So welcome Freya and Rebecca to our unschooling question and answer session.
Thank you.
So we're going to keep this under 45 minutes, hopefully maybe half an hour. We have a list of questions which you can, I don't know if you can see them on the right side. There is a Q&A icon on the left of your screen. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go through them in order. And because I'm not a seasoned unschooler, you'll be doing the talking. Okay. So look, the questions don't have any particular order. Some of them they actually come from the mostly from the unschooling and homeschooling community. We asked the question to the unschoolers, if you could have had some questions answered before you decided to unschool, what would have helped you most? And they gave us about 5 questions. And then I asked also the Homeschooling Australia community, and they gave me a few more answers about things they would like to learn about. So one of them is, what does a typical unschooling day look like? So,
You want to go first, Rebecca?
Well, today it looked like lots of noise, really. We've got no car at the moment, so we can't go out on any outings. But the kids were happy playing tablet games, and they've done. Oh, we watched some anime the other day, and the kids did biographies on some of the characters, which is kind of cool.
wow.
Yeah. And they drew pictures and everything for them. It's just like, yeah, this is like the bio file, you know. It's kind of cool. But yeah, mostly they play with each other. They have a lot of imagination games. We don't have a lot of toys in the house, so they spend most of the time either with Lego or playing with each other. And that's pretty much what our days normally look like.
Okay.
Okay, well, our days often start with getting up fairly late, and the boys often watch. I've got 2 boys, 9 and 13, and they often watch some television when they get up. This morning they were watching the educational programs on ABC3 that are all about mental health this week, and they were finding that really interesting. They've been watching that for a couple of days now. Then they usually log onto their laptops and play some games, and that can go on for some or all of the day. Sometimes all day. I also, we played cards today, mucked around in the back garden a bit, and nothing. Oh, we dealt with computer problems. I mean, because they spend a lot of time on their computers, things go wrong, and then we have to solve the problems. So solving problems to do with computers is a part of our learning process. Certainly, it's comes up fairly regularly for me. And just chatting about things that have come up on telly or that come up in relation to their games, or talking about what we're going to do tomorrow or next week, or when we get together with our homeschool friends, and organising things like that. So that was our day today, and that was a fairly normal, typical unschooling day for us.
Okay, so there isn't really, there isn't really typical days there. It's just whatever. I know for myself, it's hard to predict what's going to happen, but there is no structure that is planned for each day. So I've got a couple more answers from Susan White, and she says just the same. Oh, sorry, wrong question. Typical unschooling day: just living, doing interesting stuff. The world is an interesting place to live. And I have also an answer from Beverly Payne, and she says it can look like what happens when when the whole family is on holiday. Each day leads itself to where it needs to go to meet the needs of each family member, plus whatever they've got individually or collectively planned for that day. Any plans, schedules, or activities are self-imposed most of the time, rather than imposed on us for reasons outside of our control. Think about the best holiday at home you had. That's unschooling. Sounds good, perpetual holiday.
It's a good description.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you want to add?
Oh, well, normally like just everyday tasks get done with the kids too, like things like grocery shopping and stuff like that. Like it's madness traveling around with 3 children in the car, but everything sort of works out and everyone sort of works together to get things done. So I think that's important.
Okay, let's move on to the next question then. Okay, before we go to the moderating ones, how does unschooling work for a high school student? I don't know if any of you have high school students.
Not yet.
Yeah, I've got one.
Not you.
So what's the main difference?
You going first now, Rebecca?
There you go. You're right.
Well, okay. What's the main difference? There isn't one, really. I suppose there is a difference in, the nature of the conversations we have and the sort of subject matter we talk about or watch on television, or the type of activities we might do, change obviously as a child, matures and grows up. But in terms of the structure of our days or the way we approach what we do, there's no difference at all. From primary school to high school, it's just all the same process as far as I'm concerned. Remember our experience.
How about you, Rebecca?
Hey?
Do you have any high school age students?
No, not yet. My oldest is 11. So, but I know a few, and a lot of them are going, like they've decided to go via the TAFE route to university. So they're doing year 11 and 12 in TAFE. So they do up to year 10 at home, and then they do year 11 and 12 through TAFE and then go that way. So,
and they don't seem to have any trouble getting into TAFE or uni?
No, not at all. They're very welcome there. Their family in WA, actually, they've got 10 kids and they homeschooled 8 of them. So, yeah.
Wow.
They've all gone that way.
That's great. Okay. Well, I'll just read the answers from Susan and Beverly. Susan says it's just the same as for younger students, except that interests and abilities have changed. As a parent, you just keep providing resources and opportunities and facilitating learning, now at a higher level. So it's very much echoing what Freya just told us. And Beverly tells us that the ideal high school classroom environment is one which provides greater student autonomy and responsibility anyway. Most unschoolers during this stage of their education are already working in a fashion which is required of tertiary students. Independent study and research guided by mentors and facilitators, which can include coursework chosen by the unschooler. At this stage, unschoolers continue to specialize while building a general body of knowledge and skills necessary for independent adult life. Being in control of the direction and pace of their learning works exceptionally well. It's just a matter of helping them to find the resources they need and which work well for their individual learning styles, etc. Okay. Any other comments you want to make?
I guess I'd make I agree with the other comments. It sort of depends a little bit on, well, it depends entirely really on which direction your kids want to go. If they want to go, or if they know they want to go towards TAFE or higher education, then obviously you can provide resources and opportunities to support that. I mean, my eldest is only 13 and he doesn't have a clear idea of where he wants to head in what direction. So that's why it's still very much a matter of just, you know, supporting his interests and providing opportunities that he finds interesting right now, and just seeing where that leads. We don't know where it's going to lead, and that's fine.
Yeah, so we're not stressing out about the children not knowing where they're going to end up, what career they're going to choose for themselves. I remember as a child, as a teenager, having a lot of pressure put on me to know what I was going to do, and I had no idea. I still don't.
Yes.
I've got lots of ideas, but not a single one that I'm going to devote myself completely to. At the moment, I'm doing what pays the bills better than the other things. But if I had 60 hours a day, I'd be doing a lot of other things too. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one looks good. How do you deschool yourself and trust your children are learning what they need? Do you want to go first, Rebecca?
I don't know, I wrote something down for that. Oh yeah. I think it's really funny because people have this idea that something suddenly changes in people's brains when they turn 6. It doesn't. They are still the same child. If you trusted them to learn an entire language, if you trusted them to walk and talk, if you trusted them to learn to interact with other people, at 5, then 6 is really no different, and 7 is no different, and 8 is no different, and it just keeps going from there. Like, if you trust your kid to start off with, it's not, yeah, I mean, that's just it, isn't it? Like, we hand it over when they turn 6 and say, I no longer trust my child to learn by themselves. That is deschooling, remembering that you thought that they were a capable child as a young student before the age of 5.
Thanks, that's a great answer. Do you want to add anything to that, Freya?
Yes. I mean, I agree completely with what Rebecca's just said, and it's just a matter for me of being willing to question any of those doubts and fears that come lurking in at various stages about, well, questions about what kids are supposed to know or supposed to learn at a certain age. And obviously, if you look at school curriculums, which I do because I'm a registered homeschooler, then all those questions come up. You know, there's this, and this that the child's supposed to be learning at this point in time. So for me, it's a process of reminding myself constantly that just because it's in the school curriculum doesn't mean it's what's relevant to my child or our lives, or, you know, that it's got any particular meaning outside that context. So that's one part of it, and the other part is just continually observing the learning that the kids are doing. And like Rebecca said, they learn all the time from the time they're born, and if you just keep watching, you keep observing their learning, and it can go in sort of fits and starts, and you know, backwards and forwards and roundabout, but it's obvious to me that my kids are always learning. they're learning different things possibly than what their peers are learning at school, but not always. Sometimes they're learning exactly the same stuff as their peers are learning at school. Other times they're, learning stuff from the high school curriculum when they're 9 years old, or they're learning stuff from the kindergarten syllabus when they're 9 years old. And that's all fine with me as long as I can see that they're happy and they're actually learning. So part of the deschooling thing is just to keep observing and to keep constantly sort of connecting with my kids and talking to them about what's actually going on in their lives. And that really supports the trust, because you can see the learning happening all the time.
Thank you, Freya. When I read that question, I thought, how do we know what they need to learn? And I actually couldn't answer that. I don't know what they need to learn. I don't think my parents knew that I would need to learn programming when I was older, because they never taught it to me, and it was never taught at school. And it's a very important skill nowadays. So I think there's no way we can know what our kids will need to know in 20 years' time, but there's some basic things. Obviously, that literacy is helpful, but I also like to think in terms of personal attributes that will always be important when they, the ability to be trusted by other people is not something that's taught at school, but it's quite important to holding a job.
Yeah, compassion and empathy.
Exactly, yeah. And the curriculum, by definition, is not designed for the individuals. It's designed for the average student, or sometimes designed to meet the needs of an economical market. So the answer from Susan White here, she says, that's a tricky question. Reading widely about education helps, as does listening to your children and talking to other home educators. We are all bound to have doubts, and the old ways of thinking are hard to break out of. In the early days, keeping a quick journal summarizing each day helped me see the learning and relax my inner teacher. And here's the answer from Beverly. How do we deschool ourselves and trust? By continuously questioning your own motives for wanting or needing something to happen in a particular way. This path leads to self-knowledge and a greater understanding of what is important educationally for you and your child, and why you feel pushed to think that you need so much control over this matter in the first place. I like that answer, but continuously questioning our motives is hard. It's hard work.
But it's part of the job, though, I think.
Definitely, yeah, I agree.
Continuously questioning everything is part of the job of unschooling. It's just you want to deconstruct everything you ever learned about education. Well, that takes a bit of effort and application to keep questioning. I think one thing that came to me while you were reading those answers was that on the question of how do we know what learning they need, which is something you brought up, I think it's interesting to take the view that the children probably intuitively know what they need to learn in a way that's much more forward-thinking than the traditional education system. Like the curriculum and the current education system is really backward-looking in terms of saying, oh, well, this is the stuff that people have generally, we think they need to know based on the past, whereas if our kids aren't encumbered with that, they're actually looking at what's with them right now and what's emerging, what's coming in the future. So they're interested in emerging technology. They're interested in what's new and happening and interesting and what's taking off, and that's what they really get excited about and they want to explore. They also get interested in history and, you know, the past as well. But, yeah, I guess it's a much more fluid sort of thing for them, working out what they need. And that's why it's actually quite exciting to observe and see in all the different directions that it takes them. It's lots of fun, more fun than school. Fun is good.
Yes, it is. That's right. And you know, I really think that the question of what do we need to learn is actually pretty irrelevant. What we need is to learn, period. And we are doing it. What we need is to learn what we're interested in. Where that takes us, well, why do we need to know that? Now, what's important is that we're discovering, exploring the world on our own terms. I think that's what unschooling is really all about. And not being forced to a different, certain direction. So let's move on to the next question. We still have 5 more to cover. So I'll push that button, and let's look at this one. I actually quite like that question. Will I be seen as a bad parent who allows their kid to do nothing? How do you feel about that one, Rebecca?
Oh, I'd say it's none of your business what other people think. And get on with it. Yeah, I mean, of course you are. Everybody is. Get over it. Doesn't matter if you put your kids in school, if you take them out of school, if you everything from like birth up is wrong by someone. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. What do you think, Freya?
I think it's a great question, and the answer is absolutely yes. You will be seen as a bad parent who allows their kid to do nothing. Yeah, people think that of our family. People think that of me, and I find it helpful to reflect on whether I'm reacting to that. You know, if I'm reacting to being told that I'm negligent or a bad parent, then that means I've got some doubt in my own mind about that. If I'm reacting, then there's something unresolved in myself. And that's an opportunity for me to actually consider what it is that's unresolved. You know, is there some aspect of this that I'm not comfortable with? And if I'm not comfortable, then I'm going to react. So I've been constantly challenged ever since I started unschooling, mostly by my immediate family, my parents and my brother and sister, and I've actually found that really helpful in the long term to clarify exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and to get really, really clear about all those things, so I feel absolutely fine about it. And once I came to feel absolutely fine about it, then I don't react anymore. So they can keep thinking that, and it's really, as Rebecca said, it's their business. It's not my business what they think, and we just get on with our lives.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, so Susan says yes, sometimes you will be seen as a bad parent, and Beverly tells us yes, but that's their problem, not yours. Critically examine what nothing is. It's usually packed with lots of some things when we're talking about unschooling. So she's referring to, do you allow your kids to do nothing? Doing nothing is pretty hard for a human being. So usually nothing means, what they imply is nothing that I value.
Yes.
So, and again, what people value is really up to them. And if they are thinking this, then they're making a judgment. We don't have to feel threatened by that. That's my thoughts anyway. So let's address a couple of the administrative issues here. How do you make your sorry? Yeah. How do you make your paperwork fit the moderator's requirements? Can you just, before we answer that, just tell us what state you're in and how whether that affects the process? Rebecca, do you want to go first?
Sorry, what are you talking about? I've got background.
Sorry. How do you make your paperwork fit the requirements of the moderators?
When we were registered in WA, it was a case of I gave them a cup of tea and I sat and talked to them for an hour and they talked to my kids for an hour. And they figured out that my son had been obsessing over insects and covered every aspect of the curriculum via learning about insects. And he was the one that was registered at the time, so she just said, okay, and then went about her day. It was my first registration, so that was pretty much how it went down. Yeah, it was actually nice. It was really lovely. I hung out at a friend's house, and then everybody was there was kids everywhere and stuff, and it was just a really lovely atmosphere. And she just said, like, it's really obvious that they're all learning, so it was good.
And where do you live now?
We're in Queensland now.
And has that changed the way that you, the whole moderating process?
Well, in Queensland, it's a written process, so it's very distant in comparison to in WA, and I'm looking forward to getting back over there because it's not a pleasant system here.
So you've got homework to do.
Yeah.
What about you, Freya?
Well, I'm in New South Wales, so I've got a lot of homework to do too.
Yes.
Yes, and I've just actually gone through that process. I actually spent 2 months preparing for the re-registration of my 2 kids. I mean, obviously I only work at it bit by bit because I'm looking after them as well. Yes. But I suppose in answer to the question, I actually make an effort to really follow all the guidelines that are set out in New South Wales. Like, it looks very much, like any homeschooler applying for registration would look like. You have to have, the records of what your children are doing, like a homeschool diary type thing. You have to have some records of what they're learning or samples of work or something like that. Then you have to have a plan that fits the curriculum. So I do all that. I have, I've got all the syllabus documents. I've read them. I've made lists of of ticked off what the kids have actually learned from my observation. And it is very much just a matter of me observing them because my kids don't write down very much at all, so they don't do any, workbooks or anything like that. So it's a matter of me observing, recording the conversations we have, and then being able to go back at the record of, conversations over a period of months and saying, oh yeah, we talked about this and we talked about that and we talked about this type of maths thing or that type of history or whatever, and actually going through and ticking, getting a really good feel for what they have learnt and being able to record that. And the plan, well, that's sort of like, well, what comes next? Well, if we're up to here in the maths curriculum, then I'll just look at what comes next and I write that in the plan. And a plan is just a plan. It doesn't mean we're actually going to do that next. But I have a written list of things that we are likely to cover in the next, 6 to 12 months. And that's the plan. It doesn't actually say anything about how we're going to cover it, what our method is going to be. But I think it's quite likely that we will somehow or other trip over these things, in the next period. and that usually does happen. So the paperwork is really very similar to any sort of homeschooling thing, except probably that I guess my kids are probably spread out across the different stages or, you know, grades quite a bit in terms of their learning, because we're not actually learning according to, you know, this comes next in the curriculum. Our learning is much more fluid than that. So they're spread out from, you know, across a number of years in terms of their learning, and my documentation just reflects that. There's no need, fortunately, in New South Wales to show that your child is actually learning, you know, grade 3 when they're in grade 3. They just have to be learning something, and you have to know where they're up to. It doesn't matter if they're learning grade 1 or grade 5, as long as you actually record what they're learning.
Great. Okay, so it sounds like record keeping is a really important part of this process wherever you live.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll read the other answers I've got here. Where is it? I don't think she answered that one. Okay. So I'll read Beverly's answer. I read the registration guidelines and read through the bits of the curriculum that match my child's educational and developmental stage to get an idea about what they need to satisfy their sense of duty of care towards my child, even if I disagree philosophically with their stance on this matter. Once I know what others require of me, I feel in a better position to decide what I want or need to do to help them meet that need. I found keeping brief records and reflections of learning taking place gave me the confidence to convince people that the kids were learning heaps. Yeah, so again, record keeping, and Beverly lives in South Australia. So, which I hear is pretty good for unschooling. So we'll take that as answered, and this one, which is somewhat related, will I get in trouble with the authorities? Did you guys get in trouble with the authorities?
No.
Were you afraid to?
Unschooling is legal everywhere, so it's just some states are harder to do it in than others. So no, you won't.
Nothing to fear. That's right. Do you have anything to add to that, Freya?
Well, yes, you will get in trouble possibly if you're not registered in New South Wales. I know people who've been caught by truancy officers when out with their kids, but it's not an awful sort of getting in trouble if you're willing to then register your children. If you get caught by the truancy officer or the police and you're not willing to register, then you'll be prosecuted because it's an offence to not, you know, give your children some sort of education. Either you send them to school or you register as a homeschooler. If you don't do either of those things, then unless you manage to fly under the radar completely, you'll get into trouble. Mind you, a lot of people manage to fly under the radar completely, but we live in a suburban area and there are truancy officers around. I was unregistered for the first 5 years that we were unschooling, and I decided to register because I was getting nervous about getting caught. So I was actually getting worried about getting into trouble. And that's why I decided to register. I was also very nervous about registering because, you know, because we were unschoolers, I wasn't confident that we were going to be able to fit into the box. You know, that I was going to be able to satisfy the authorities. I was fortunate that a friend of mine, in a way, she got caught and she became registered, and so she demonstrated to me that it was possible, and that gave me the confidence to do it myself off my own bat before I got caught.
Yes.
And yeah, it was just a matter of getting over that hurdle of reading the reading the documentation and reading the curriculum documents and getting my head around all that, and then just working out how I was going to approach that registration process. And it went very well. Once I got over that hurdle, the guy, I guess we call him an authorised person in New South Wales, who came to see us that first time, was really supportive. He didn't ask any difficult questions about why I hadn't registered before, or why, he didn't even ask, why aren't your kids reading, or why aren't they doing workbooks or anything like that. He just wanted to see basically that I had my head around the formal requirements, that I understood them. He wanted to see that the kids were happy, the environment was happy, there were good resources available, the kids were learning, and he saw all those things very clearly, and he was really happy to register us, and we've had no problems being registered ever since. So it was in part a matter of confidence for me. In fact, that's a really big part of it. Just being confident that, you can get your head around it, you can get help getting your head around all that curriculum stuff if you need help. Yeah, it's possible, and you don't have to worry about getting in trouble because it's legal, and lots of people are doing it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yes, and as you said, there's plenty of help there. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of unschoolers who are registered and have gone through that process. And if you join our Facebook Unschooling Australia group and ask questions, you will get lots of help. I'll just read you what Beverly has given us. Where is it? Oh yeah. I always ask myself, what's the worst thing that can happen, and then work to protect myself from that happening. And in most cases, what I imagine to be the worst thing rarely happens, and probably would never in my situation anyway. It may happen to another family whose situation and approach and lifestyle is considerably different from mine. I also reassure myself that my records of our unschooling life are sufficient to demonstrate education is happening. So, again, record keeping, very important, and like you said, Freya, the confidence that it's possible, it can be done. The fact that not many people are doing it sometimes is a bit daunting, but it's not as hard as going to school. So let's tick that box. I'll just answer one more question because I'm running out of time. I think this one is very good. It goes at the core of unschooling, really. How much do you plan activities for your kids, or let them do their own planning? Do you have a ready answer for that, Rebecca?
Well, it depends on the week. Like, sometimes when we actually have a car, as opposed to now, we do a nature trip once a week, and that's generally decided by all of us together, just as a family, not with any other families, because I've got 2 kids that are not really keen on big social groups. And then we do a Lego play for my little socialite, middle kid, she's 8. And we do, there's a couple of things that get planned. We don't do any paid activities because, quite frankly, we can't afford it. But we have a lot of friends that we can call on for play dates and things like that. We do a lot of one-on-one. We don't do a lot of big social events, and we got nerds for kids. They don't do sports. So archery's the worst it gets, and that's it. There's too much otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do most of the planning all together, really. It's really sort of a communal thing, even down to things like dinner and stuff like that. It's all sort of, hey, what do you want for dinner? And, it's not us or them. It's just kind of all together.
Right, somewhere in the middle. So that's great. Because the question is worded in a way that you think there's only two possibilities: either you plan everything for them, or you let them run wild. And you're basically just saying that we actually decide together as a family.
Yeah.
Which can be a bit of a novel concept for some people in my culture.
It works with the 8-year-old and it works with the 11-year-old. Not so great with the 3-year-old sometimes.
That's right. They do need a bit of sometimes choices made for them until they can start to make their opinion a bit more. Yeah, they actually they tell us when they're ready to make choices.
Sometimes.
Yeah. What about you, Freya?
Well, we do very similar, actually. I just talk to the kids about the sort of things they'd like us to do in the next period of time. So, you know, we have a regular homeschool group that we go to once a fortnight, and we have various other homeschool activities, you know, that we do during term time. Like we do science workshops once a month. There's a creativity and storytelling group we go to once a fortnight. And, you know, at times we've done art class, we've done swimming class, we've done things like that, which I basically, you know, ask the kids, are you interested in this? You know, do you want to do this? Do you want to give it a try? I offer them all sorts of things, and they take their pick of what they find interesting at that point in time. So that's sort of, I facilitate that, and then we organise, you know, bushwalks and outings just as a family, or like Rebecca said, just with friends, and we talk about that as a family. What do we want to do? Do you want to go on a bushwalk? Do you want to see these people? Do you want to get together with those friends? But in terms of, you know, the day, the hour to hour, sort of what happens in their day, well, yeah, it's again just a family thing. But in terms of, well, my kids want to watch this thing on television, or they want to play that game, or they want to get this game next, or they want to play with Lego, or they want to go out to the beach or a swim, well, they plan it. You know, it just sort of evolves. They say, this is what I want to do, and if they need help, then we, you know, talk about it. If they want to go swimming, obviously they need somebody to supervise, so then it's a matter of discussing, well, okay, is today a good day for going swimming? How are we going to organise that? So it's just very much a matter of, coming to agreement amongst ourselves about what we want to do in the short term and the long term, and just seeing how it all evolves. It is a very fluid process. So yeah, there's nothing really set by me. It just all gets worked out as we go along.
Great, just like life, really, it just happens, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Okay, just read Susan's comments here on this one. She says, mostly let them plan their own activities, but also I took them interesting places, exhibitions, festivals, places of interest, classes, etc. to spark interests. We had a policy of giving things a go. If they sparked an interest, we'd go back. If not, we'd move on to the next thing, and that seemed to work. Which is similar to what Freya said about introducing things to them. What does Beverly say about this one? I'm a paranoid parent, worried about giving my kids the best shot in life I can, so it's only natural that I'll put things in their path that are important to me and I want them to learn. But it's up to them to engage if they want to go and learn that stuff. If it's not a match with their needs right now, I let it go and maybe have another try another day. Perhaps from another angle, or use a different approach. But the kids naturally need to fit in with my lifestyle choices to a large degree in the same way that I need to fit in with theirs. So as an owner-builder, my kids got to do a lot of building, helping us plan and build, and they learned about solar panels, gardening, etc. I learned about Lego, computers, and cars. So yeah, that's very interesting. I like that answer too. Okay, do you guys have anything else you want to add to this session before we close?
Nope.
Nope.
Thanks for organising it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your answers. I hope that all those that are watching will post some comments on the YouTube video, and we'll also take a look at our Unschooling Australia group. Just apply. It's a private group, so you need to be to have a moderator approve your joining, and it doesn't take long. And Rebecca and myself and Freya are 3 of the moderators of that group, so we'll be happy to receive your application. Have a nice day, everybody, and we'll see you on the 12th of November for another get-together session online. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.